Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. On satellite imagery, again, not a lot going on. Some cloudiness right through here. A couple of troughs swinging southeastward there, and maybe some flurries up in that area back on toward the east side, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Another batch here slipping on down to the southeast once again, and some of that on down through the Bering Strait to about St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, this is sea ice right through here mostly, and then the clear skies now southwest of St. Paul, and the remnants of what was a frontal boundary here dragging southeastward there to Nikolsky, on over to Atka, breaking out around Adak, and another system bringing some wind, rain, and snow into the Shemya area. Otherwise, moisture here slipping on north, again, mostly affecting the area from Cape Yakataga eastward across Yakutat. Areas of precipitation here across the southeast coast today, and that all kind of pulling back up into the eastern interior, eastern Copper River Basin, into the Wrangell Mountains there with cloudiness back to the northwest into the Koyukuk Valley and the Central Brooks Range, but pretty clear skies. South central Alaska today, not so much in Prince William Sound, some snow showers going on there, but back down toward Kodiak Island, pretty nice day today. And looking at the chart here, I have elongated trough right through this area here, and that's where the precipitation continues today, or was the heaviest today, right through that area, again, right up across Yakutat into the northern panhandle. A lot more showery on down to the south, and even lighter and more scattered here across the southeast interior, but again, snow showers into Prince William Sound, and again, the area cloudiness up there with light precipitation, and that trough coming over the top of this persistent area of high pressure, both at the surface and aloft, sitting right over the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island. So another very light wind day here from the Alaska Peninsula all the way up into the Chukchi Sea. A little breezier with this trough there on the west side of the Arctic coast, but not too bad. And frontal boundary roughly right in this position here, really breaking off in this portion. You can see what looks to be very few clouds right through here, so that portion's breaking off. Another development right in there with mostly just showers and the rain tending to lift northward of Shemya. And we'll see for tonight, that continues to push off to the east. The next one slowly pushes eastward, not moving a whole lot there, but looks like rain from Adak out to about Nikolsky there, becoming showers for Shemya. And the Bering Sea looking good, mostly clear, kind of be right on the clouds there on the edge for the Pribilos, but may have a mostly clear night tonight. Light easterly winds, light northeast breezes here along the southwest coast continue as the high holds up there near or north of St. Lawrence Island. Of course, that's going to keep it VFR, clear skies all the way back to the Pribilofs, and mostly clear. Under the high center, could get some low stuff forming, but nothing too serious. On up into the Bering Strait, and now there's that front pushing down from the northwest there. Not really all that strong, but enough that it should spread light snow from roughly Wainwright eastward all the way toward, well, let's say toward Kaktovik by tomorrow. Some of that getting down to the central Brooks Range, so you could see some marginal VFR showing up on the north sides of Anatuvik and Adigan passes there. Otherwise, VFR back to the west, and mostly VFR here, just some clouds over the eastern interior. Area of flurries, light snow showers there from about Eagle southeastward there too, possibly all the way down to maybe the Talkeetnas, but that's very light. And then periods of light snow here over toward the border there, mostly again from Yakutat northward across the Wrangell Mountains too, possibly Northway, maybe Tok. And looks like the mixed precipitation right along the coastline, becoming rain down to the south, and not too bad, dry over the southern southeast coast. There may be some clearing, especially down toward Dixon Entrance, and winds remaining pretty light. So taking a look at tomorrow, a couple of low centers here. Now one down to the south, this one pretty weak, 1,003 millibars, so this area of precipitation edging eastward and becoming less significant. Just some snow showers or occasional light snow continuing here, Yakutat in toward Elfin Cove. Probably not reaching Juneau, and pretty good down the Panhandle, variable clouds, increasing chances for sunshine tomorrow as you head southward toward Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, no change for the eastern interior. Easterly flow keeping the areas of snow in the area there on the upslope side of the Wrangell Mountains up to about Northway, and this front dragging across the central and eastern Arctic coast there with maybe some windier conditions possibly there on the eastern Arctic coast, but nothing significant. Just areas of IFR, marginal VFR with the snow associated with that. Otherwise, high pressure coming inland a little bit here, so the interior, Koyukuk Valley, all the way to the Yukon Flats. Actually, it ridges all the way into Canada, so dry conditions, lots of sunshine, all the way down again across south central Alaska. Maybe getting a little breezier through the passes of the Alaska Range, but it won't be until Wednesday that you see the winds pick up a little more with a gust through the along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, as that gradient tightens up a little bit for Wednesday. But tomorrow looking pretty good. Not too bad wind-wise, lots of sunshine for Kodiak, same thing for the Alaska Peninsula. No change for the southwest coast. Another day much like today, which was much like yesterday. Maybe a few clouds for St. Lawrence Island, light winds again, no precipitation. Could be a few flurries up here north from the Bering Strait northward to Point Hope, possibly Kivalina, but whatever does occur will be pretty darn light. A few showers scattered for Atka over toward Nikolsky. Otherwise, again, pretty dry, storm-free here for the Bering Sea. A weak front for a chance of rain out over the far western Aleutians, but that system quite weak. And then the outlook for Wednesday, kind of a weak low develops on that front. Slides eastward, more rain, wet conditions, cloudy skies for the central Aleutians. Continued light winds though, and no change again for the Alaska Peninsula. Chalk up another mostly sunny and light wind day here from Kodiak Island up into south central Alaska again. Looking pretty good, may pick up a few more clouds right through this area, but pretty nice. VFR flying all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast, becoming marginal, and then around the central coast there may pick up some IFR with this trough here again in that flow, west-northwest flow coming over the top of the persistent high pressure over the Russian Far East, and that may slip on down into the Bering Strait. So pretty snowy day on Wednesday. Areas of light snow here for the Bering Strait on up across the northwest into the Noatak Valley, eastward to possibly Selawik, probably not making it to Ambler, right on the edge, and then the Koyukuk Valley pretty good. Otherwise, mostly sunny again down to the Pribilof Islands, and partly sunny, we'll call it, for Unalaska. Back into nothing but sun, the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. Maybe an increase in the northwest winds here. And again, as I mentioned, look for stronger gusts through the passes here, Copper River Delta, maybe even Prince William Sound, possibly as high as 40 to 45 knots. And that's about the only change that's going to occur. Otherwise, moisture and clouds here right along the eastern border from about Eagle southward, mostly north of the Alaska Range now for, well, roughly about Nebezna, Northway, Tok, those locations. Cloudy skies, persistent flurries. And now a system develops on that frontal boundary, scoots up just south of the area there while this low edges in toward the Queen Charlottes. So a lot of moisture spreading up across the southeast coast. Rain northward there across Dixon Entrance to Ketchikan, Juneau, Metlakatla, as well as Heidelberg, Craig, and Klawock. A mixture, say roughly from Sitka to Port Alexander, eastward to Wrangell and Petersburg, and then north of there, better chances of snow, but it doesn't look like anything too heavy at this point. And then cutting off here toward Yakutat and sunshine, south central Alaska. And this front can't quite make it to the Fox Islands. So temperatures this afternoon across the Panhandle, mostly in the lower to mid 40s today, not too bad. Mid 30s for the North Gulf Coast there to 32 degrees at Whittier. 37 in Seward, about that in Kodiak this afternoon, mid 20s across the Copper River Basin. We had 27 in Talkeetna, up to 31 at Kenai, and a 32 degree reading reported at Homer. North of the mountains there, still on the chilly side, up to 7 at Fairbanks, and Delta had 12, 11 at Tanana, 18 above at Fort Yukon, 16 at Eagle, and Bettles, 3 above 0, and Atuvik just shade above there with 1 and 0 even over at Dead Horse, -2 Kaktovik, about 5 degrees here on the western central coastline, back below 0 with -9 at Kivalina, -2 at Kotzebue, and Selawik at 4 below. Lower teens warm to about 17 at McGrath, and then cool back down to just 9 at Bethel, back up to 22 at Macoriac, 17 there at Savunga, while Nome had 8 above, and mid to upper 20s for the Pribilofs, mid 30s there at Unalaska, near or into the lower 40s for the central Aleutians, on out to Shimia, mid 30s, Kodiak Island. Lows tonight, lower 30s, maybe upper 20s here for the southeast coast. Not too bad. Look for the lows again tonight here, south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast areas about like they were last night. Mid 20s, Kodiak Island, near 0 the Copper River Basin, north and west of the mountains. Below 0 again, anywhere from 15 to 30 degrees below 0. Coldest here over the central interior, Koyukuk Valley locations. Below 0 right up to the Arctic coast. And teens for the Pribilofs, mid to upper 30s for the Aleutians. And for the highs tomorrow, teens here over the southwest interior, some areas edging up into the lower 20s, but looks like mid-teens for the Tanana Valley. Single numbers to the north out to the coastline, mid-40s for the southern southeast coast. Flying weather tomorrow morning, moisture streaming northward, so look for another round of IFR slipping on up, kind of lingering here over the eastern Arctic coast again. Maybe Cordova, more likely Cape Yakataga to Yakutat, just some marginal stuff over the northern Panhandle, and then marginal on up with IFR there for the eastern and central Arctic coast. Good VFR out over the Bering Sea. And for tomorrow afternoon, it vanishes out there. I don't think it'll vanish completely, but anyway, this location here will persist. Right there, that moisture continues to stream northward. So Yakutat right under the IFR area, VFR to the east, VFR to the west, VFR to the north with some lingering marginal stuff, eastern Arctic coast and north slope, right up to the crest of the Brooks Range. And for passes, pretty good again, except for adding, could be on the northern approaches of both sides, both passes on the north side. Could see some marginal VFR, otherwise VFR to the south. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR tomorrow, same forecast for rainy, windy VFR. Isabel, though, marginal. And also for Tanita, VFR conditions with Portage VFR. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR to start with, becoming VFR by late afternoon. And the freezing levels looking something like this. Really not a lot of change. Late tonight, early tomorrow morning, right at the surface here, up along Yakutat area, down the Panhandle, south of Kodiak Island, with the warmer conditions holding out to the west here, 2,000 feet on up across the western Bering Sea. And for icing tomorrow, with that weak frontal system out there, areas of light rime icing possible above 5,000 feet. Also with the moisture here sliding eastward across the eastern Arctic coast down to the Berks Range. Could be some icing there as well. And also probably some mixed type icing here for the northern panhandle again. Cape Yakataga in across the northern areas, icing free down to the south. Winds aloft, big ridge holding here out over the eastern Bering Sea, kind of rearranging itself from one day to the next, but basically holding in this position. North winds at about 50 knots, the main jet well down to the south here, but a return flow at about 50 coming into the southern panhandle. And for the 3,000 foot winds, we've got northeasterlies. I'll call it right through this area. It appears to be strongest, say 25 to 35 knots right through here, all the way down to 5 to 10 on up to the north. Southwesterlies, 15 to maybe 25 knots along the Arctic coast, lighter though into the Bering Strait. Light winds for the panhandle. Easterly flow across the southern Bering Sea become even lighter for the Aleutians. And 9,000 feet, there's some numbers. West, 25 knots there for 3,000 foot winds along the Arctic coast. Really light here over the central interior. And then a band of 20 knotters coming out of the Kuskokwim Valley on down. Looks like at about 15 knots there, Kodiak Island. A trough persisting here along the North Gulf Coast, and east-southeast at about 30 knots, holding out over the western Aleutians. And for turbulence, pretty good area here with those northerly winds of mechanical turbulence, especially along and on the lee side of the western Alaska Range and the Aleutian Range, down across Kodiak Island and extending possibly all the way out to Tuksuk Bay. And also for the Aleutian chain, some light to isolated moderate turbulence. Same thing for the Arctic coast. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good afternoon. I'm Rocky Capozzi. On behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaska Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this afternoon is our own Mary O'Connor. Mary is the manager of the Aviation Safety Research Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. We call it NIOSH. Most of the time you'll just hear people refer to NIOSH. Mary's been focused for quite a while now and has recently completed a training DVD for commercial pilots in Alaska, and the subject is preventing fatigue. So Mary, I'd like to focus this whole segment on this DVD that you've produced. And my first question is, focused on pilots in Alaska. So what's different about pilots in Alaska, and how do you achieve that focus?
So our focus is on, in particular, Part 135 pilots, the pilots for commuters and air taxis, because they have conditions for working that are a lot different than most pilots in the lower 48. Typically, they're flying smaller aircraft. They are often flying multiple legs during their day, and as a pilot yourself, you know that takeoffs and particularly landings can be stressful, and that can add to fatigue, as well as the conditions in Alaska with the long hours of daylight in the summer and long hours of darkness in the winter can be especially promoting fatigue.
Certainly. So what's included on your DVD?
So our fatigue prevention CD has 4 modules, and they deal with why sleep is important, the signs and symptoms of fatigue and how to recognize it in yourself and others, how to improve the quality and the quantity of sleep, which will help in preventing fatigue. And then we talk about mitigation as well, and what to do if you absolutely, positively cannot avoid being fatigued.
So is this strictly focused on commercial pilots, or does it have application to the general aviation pilot as well?
It's got application to all pilots and actually all people. One of our reviewers who works in aviation in Alaska asked if it would be all right if we let his daughter, who's a college student, see it, because college students are pretty well known for operating while fatigued. And absolutely, there's information that can benefit anybody.
I see. So where can people view this training, or either get the CD or view the training, which?
So we released it as a downloadable item for people that have internet connections, and we ask that they download it and not try to live stream it from the internet. And they can find that at our website, and if the easiest thing to do is if they just Google NIOSH and aviation, should come right up. And then if they are in an area where it's more convenient to have a hard copy or they don't get great internet, they can just request a CD, aviation at cdc.gov. Let me know and I can send them a CD as well.
Okay, so you mentioned NIOSH and aviation, but you said this is Alaska specific.
It is.
Did they throw that in the Google search term too?
They can, but they don't have to.
They don't have to, okay.
Our aviation safety program is not strictly Alaskan. We also look at areas of work that involve aviation, such as research into wildland firefighting and oil and gas operations.
Okay.
So if it uses aviation,
Sure.
we've probably done research there.
That makes sense. So I assume that the download is for free. If somebody needs an actual hard DVD, is that also free?
It's all free, absolutely.
Okay.
And I would encourage people just to take a look at it, and if they are interested in more information, we've got references, we've got citations, so that
Okay.
as they would a research article, they can go and see the sources where we got the information. We have links to NTSB accident reports that have involved fatigue. We have information on sleep disorders. We have information on relaxation techniques and links where people might be able to go and find some meditation to help relax if they're having difficulties getting to sleep. So there's a lot of information on it.
So that's interesting. You talked about sleep disturbance, and let me ask two quick questions. We've got about a minute left here, but what percentage of accidents, Part 135 accidents, do they find fatigue as a contributing factor?
That is really difficult to answer because we don't have a good way to measure fatigue. What the NTSB does in their accident investigations is does a look back, and they'll determine if there were opportunities for a person to be fatigued. But like a blood alcohol
like a
concentration.
24, 48, 72
hours.
Yeah.
But we can't measure that in a person like we can a blood alcohol concentration.
That makes sense. Well, is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
Just to know that fatigue is not something that you are necessarily going to be able to judge yourself, and the only real cure is sleep.
Okay, you heard it, everybody. Get your sleep, and Mary, thanks for joining us today. We hope to have you back again.
Thanks, Rocky.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back. Pretty light winds here on the south coast. Just 10 knots, variable directions. Mostly northeast here on in across Clarence Strait. Northerlies at 15 on up the Lynn Canal. Small craft advisory southeast 25 for the north coast. Excuse me. Those become southeast, drop back to 20 knots. So lose the small craft advisories here all along the coastline. Southeast 30 though over the southern panhandle, and that sea height there, that should be, let's call it 6 feet. Back to north, 20 knots Stevens Passage, back up to 30 knots out of the northern Lynn Canal. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, north 20. I guess we could bring in the higher gusts tomorrow afternoon here, especially out of the Copper River Delta. Otherwise 20 knot winds. Small craft advisories northwest 30, possible gale gusts for the Barren Islands back to Kamishak Bay. Small craft northerlies for Kodiak Island up into southern Cook Inlet. And for Wednesday, north 15, pick up to 25 knots, southern inlet. Northwesterlies at 30 continue from Kachemak Bay across the Barrens and now include Kodiak Island with 25 to 30 knot winds. North 15 to 20, North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound, and even stronger gusts there for the Copper River Delta. And for Bristol Bay, north winds 20 knots with north to northeast winds at about 20 across the Alaska Peninsula. Small craft advisories, Castle Cape to Sitkinak with 7-foot seas. Wednesday, light north winds, Bristol Bay on down the coastline across the peninsula, just 15 knots. Kick it up a shade here to a more northwesterly direction up towards Sitkinak. And for the Aleutians, not too bad there for the Fox Islands. Easterlies at 15 to 20 and east-southeast here 20 to 25, back down to 20 knots for Adak and Atka. West of Adak, on out to Tattoo Island, southeast 25, seas building to 10 feet. For Wednesday, less wind out here to the west and just 15 knots for the central Aleutians and light winds all the way over to False Pass. And then for the southwest coast, tomorrow light variable conditions north of Nunivak Island, and that actually extends again across St. Lawrence Island all the way through southeast in there. Northeast 20 though, more significant, blowing out of Kuskokwim Bay, turning east to 15 for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island. For Wednesday, no change here, really along the coast. North 20 south of Nunivak Island, east 15 for the Pribilofs. Bring it down to 10 knots now, so definitely high pressure holding over the northern Bering Sea. Up along the Arctic coast on the east side, that's where you'll see most of the wind. Brisk wind advisories, especially on the far eastern zone there, but dropping back to 15 for the central coast. Southwest 20, kick it up to 25 knots from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, and then much lighter on down toward the Bering Strait. For Wednesday, forgot to change the label, but this is Wednesday's forecast. Southwest winds here, 10 to 15 knots, not too bad on the west side. Even lighter on the east side, just 10 knots out of the southwest. For tonight again, area snow here, slowly edging eastward and dissipating, so losing even the snow showers of Prince William Sound, holding on to the clouds though, no change back here to the west, all the way out into the eastern Bering Sea. No change at all, the high pressure holding to the north. Over the top of that, a front spread some light snow into the central coast, eastward and southward, and a not very impressive system out over the western Bering Sea. Kind of lingers out there through Tuesday. High pressure holds here over the interior with mostly clear skies, cold temperatures, and a stalled out Arctic boundary there along the Arctic coast, and still snow hanging on to the extreme eastern interior, down to Yakutat and eastward. And for Wednesday, a quick look.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.